everybody. Welcome to the Hallmarkies podcast. And we love talking with authors on this podcast. So it's so much fun for us to have Kelsie Stelting here on the podcast. And Kelsie, thank you so much for coming on and talking with us.
Thanks for having me. I'm really happy to be here.
Yes. So why don't you introduce yourself? It's your first time on the podcast. Tell us a little bit about you and how you got started writing.
So my name's Kelsie Stelting. I write body positive romance for young adults and women. I've been writing for forever, but I've been publishing for 6 years. And it all just kind of started with me writing things that I wish could have happened to me, like playing around in a fantasy land, which was super fun. And over the years, I just have kind of followed that creativity and really had a lot of fun creating happily ever afters.
Mm-hmm. So do you grew up as a reader then?
I did. I read a lot. My family lived like 20 miles outside of town, so there wasn't a lot to do. So we would always like go into the library, and I would come home with stacks of like 10 books deep to try and read. And like, most kids get forced to read, and my mom would always be like, "You've been reading all day, you need to go outside." So I was always like had my nose in a book.
Did you have your favorites or franchises?
Oh yeah, I mean all the usual ones. I really loved Harry Potter when I was younger. And I would like, my habit at the library was I would go through and pick out whichever books were the thickest because I knew that those would last me longer. So I just read like a lot of everything from like mysteries to fantasies or whatever. I wasn't super picky about that. I just wanted the longer stories.
Yeah. So how did you decide, okay, I'm going to actually write? And then what was that process like to get to the first published book?
Oh, I was a hot mess. So I grew up in the middle of nowhere on a farm. And when you grow up like that and then you're academically gifted, everyone says you should become a veterinarian. And so I went to college and majored in animal science to be a veterinarian. And
did you like science?
I loved science. That's why I just love a lot of different things. There are things that, I really love about like the agrarian type of lifestyle. And there are things that I wasn't so hot on. But I just always felt like that pull that I needed to write and I needed to create and share. And about halfway through my degree, I was going to add an English double major. And they told me it would add 1.5 years to my graduation time. And I was like, that's not happening. So I finished the degree. Still wasn't totally sure how I was going to work, like writing into the story, what it was going to look like. I just started like kind of testing the waters. Like I would write short stories and submit them to competitions. And I would write like stories of people that I really loved. So I interviewed my grandma and told like her life story. And that's really what started it, was because I was getting ready to go to grad school in nursing because I still had no idea what I wanted to do and was afraid to admit what I wanted to do. And I wrote my grandma's story and I sent it to her, and she said, "It feels so good to be seen like this." And I just broke down into tears because like that's how I wanted to make people feel. Like that's what had been missing out of all my career paths, was like that power to use my words to help people.
That's so sweet to hear that from your grandma.
I know, it meant the world to me. She was my hero and like my best friend. And, to have her, like to be able to give her a little bit of what she gave me growing up was the best. She eventually, she got cancer pretty shortly after that and passed away. And I was like, I want, like, her story needs to be told. And there are a lot of other women from my hometown who had never really been heard in that way. And so I interviewed a bunch of them and put it all together into like a multi-biographical book, my nonfiction book, and published it. And that was like kind of my toes in the water of publishing. Yeah. And from there I was like, oh, I can do this. So I just kept going.
So you submitted you just submitted your book to your first book. You just sent it in? Or
So basically what happened was there was one publisher in Kansas that I thought would be a good fit. It was like, oh, there's my dog. You can see. It was University of Kansas Press. And I submitted the idea to them and they're like, well, basically, we don't think there are enough people to be interested in this.
Mhm.
And I was like, ouch. And also, like, you're wrong. Because these are fabulous stories and these women deserve to be heard. And I applied for a grant through like the community foundation and I got it for like historical preservation. And I used those funds to do it ended up being like a 600 book print run. And I sold it at the county fair. It was very like very rural
That's
small
funny.
time, but it really opened a lot of doors for me.
Mhm. So how did you then go from that to fiction?
Oh, I had always loved fiction and had fiction stories bouncing around my head. And once I had this book out and I kind of learned the process of like working with an editor and finding a cover and formatting your books and all of that, I was like, oh, I can just keep doing this with my fiction. And in the meantime, as I was publishing that book, I was listening to tons of podcasts about like I would listen to authors on podcasts and I would listen to self-published authors on podcasts and listen about how to get an agent. And I was just soaking in all this information. And to me at that time, I really thought, independent publishing is the way I want to go for now. And that's just, I kind of like dug my heels in and went with it.
Mhm. So you reached out to some of these independent publishers and they were willing to give your one of your fiction books a shot?
No, I just,
No.
I did it all on my own.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm an independent author, and that means that I manage the whole production process of
Oh,
my books.
wow.
From I work with editors on contract, cover designers, proofreaders, all of that, and I manage the uploading through Amazon and other platforms. And it's a learning curve for sure, but it's definitely one that I've enjoyed.
That's great. So would you consider yourself a pantser or a plotter?
Um, at the beginning of my career, I was a very hardcore pantser. And now I usually like loosely plot at the very beginning of the process and then just like discovery write my way through it.
Mhm. So how did you come up with this idea of the Curvy Girl books?
Hmm. Well, before I wrote the Curvy Girl Club, I had written a series about a girl named Abby, and she was plus sized, and she really struggled with like self acceptance and loving her body, and trying to find a way to like just make sense of it in the world as a high school girl. And people really responded to that story. A lot of people really loved it. Some people really hated it, which is fine. And I thought about what I enjoyed so much about writing that story. And it was that I was able to put so much of myself and my experience as a plus size teen into it. And I thought, like, this needs to be spoken about. It needs to be said. I don't see a lot of teen books with plus size girls getting their happily ever afters. So I'm just going to write the book that I wished would have been in my school library when I was growing up.
Mhm.
Because it wasn't like, I mean, I went to a small school, so it was a very small library anyway, but all of the romance novels were like Lurleen McDaniels or like what's his name, Nicholas Sparks, where people die in the
Oh,
end.
yeah.
I was like, I don't
Get
want to read this
cancer.
kind of romance.
Yeah.
I want to read happily ever afters, and I want to read about big girls getting them.
Mhm. Well, what I like too is that it totally could have been a gimmick, but you use it as kind of just a hook to get people into the stories. And then you really don't talk about it that much within the story. It's just the characters.
Mhm.
So I like that.
Yeah, I thought I just wanted a place where girls like me felt seen. Like,
Mm,
and by naming it the Curvy Girl Club, like I just wanted to send a real clear signal, like this is what it is. it is for my people, and I hope that they love it. And a lot of people have really enjoyed it,
Mhm.
which feels great.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Sometimes stuff like this can be a little bit patronizing. It's not, it feels like it doesn't feel authentic to the characters, but I think that these books actually do. Like they have actual like good characters. It's not just that they're curvy. It's just like kind of a fun way to kind of hook you into the story, and then they actually have good characters. Do you see? I think you have 11. Is that right?
I have 11, yes, and my 12th book is on the way.
All right. So, would you have a favorite of the 11?
Oh, I think probably, it's so hard. I think probably Rory and Beckett, just because they're the ones who got this all started, and I really love Rory's like, "I'm gonna do what I wanna do. I'm gonna be really embarrassed about it, but I'm gonna do it anyway," kind of personality.
Mm-hmm.
And, I really do love, Ginger and Ray,
Mm-hmm.
because when I write about them, I could just write and write and write and write. Like, so much comes up when I write about them.
Yeah. Well, I've read 3 of them so far. And I wanted to even get more in, but with this traveling and everything. But I've read Quarterbacks, which is Rory and Beckett,
Mhm.
and that one's a lot of fun. Her parents are intense. They're a lot.
Yeah. And it's so funny because reviewers will be like, "No one's mom is like that." And I'm like, "Girl, please, I know at least like 5 people who had moms like that."
Yeah. You also have Mean Girl Merit in there,
Yes.
and
Yes.
she's intense too.
Yes.
But
For
I
sure.
it's a lot of fun. And then you have the Billionaires is probably my favorite. So you have Jordan and Kai. And at the beginning of the book, her mom tells her, because she's working as like a cleaning service for him in his fancy house. And her mom says, don't fall in love with the client's the client's son.
Yes. One rule.
Yeah. One rule. And then the meet cute is pretty fun in that one.
Yes. I love it.
She's
It's a little risque, which I
yeah,
love.
she's changing and he sees her and he's like, oh.
Yes. Yeah, I
Yes.
love Kai and Jordan. They're so fun because Jordan has I feel like I put a little bit of myself into each of my characters. And when I believe in things, I really believe in them hard. And I feel like Jordan's that way too.
Yeah.
And it's so fun to see how people react to the story, because some people love that part about Jordan and some people are just like, "Ugh, I don't like that at
Yeah.
all."
Well, and it has like a tiny bit of sort of enemies to lovers, I think, in there. She's
Mhm.
super judgmental of him and like, how can
Mhm.
you be wasting all this money and you could be helping people and he's just kind of like, I'm just living my life. Like I don't it's not my
He's
fault.
like, "I'm 17, 18, like, what do you want me to do?"
Yeah. And then his dad is pretty snobby
Mhm.
at first. He comes around a little bit, but then her mom there's like a whole wounded side to her mom,
Mhm.
because part of the reason she has to work so hard is that her daughter, Jordan's sister, passed away from cancer. So all these medical bills. So that's really sad.
Right.
Yeah. It gives us some heart, I think, to the story.
Yeah, yeah, and I think, like, a lot of times girls wish that they had that, like, best friend relationship with their mom, which is wonderful, and that's what Jordan has with her mom, but, like, sometimes that's hard too, because it's hard to walk that line between mom and
Yeah.
daughter and friend, and I
No
really like,
boundaries.
yeah, I really like seeing that play out and just kind of seeing that, like, parents have trauma that they haven't worked through either that can affect the relationship. Like, it's not just
Hmm.
kids or teens that make mistakes. So yeah, that was kind of fun to write.
Yeah. Well, and I can't remember if her mom was an immigrant,
Yeah,
right?
her mom's parents came
Okay.
from
Yeah. Yeah.
Mexico, right?
So that kind of adds a layer too, that she
Yeah,
thinks people are judging her for that as well. Not only
right.
the fact that she goes to this fancy school, but that lives in this apartment complex and also that her mom is a maid. She works, and just everything, she feels like very judged.
Yeah.
So it's not just her body that she feels insecure about. It's like everything.
Right. My editor, as we were working on this, she was saying it's almost like poor girls can't date billionaires too. It's not just
Yeah,
Curvy.
that's true. Well, and it's always very, very swoon worthy in these kinds of books when a guy is just, I don't want to say pursuing a girl because that makes it sound creepy, but like there's no sense of like settling at all. Like he is into her from the very beginning. And that is very, very attractive.
Oh, I love that. I love writing books where the guys fall first or the guys fall harder. And it's so funny because like alpha heroes are really in right now. People love reading about those like rough around the edges guys. And I'm like, no, give me a cinnamon roll. Give me a guy who's really nice. I will take that every day of the week.
We were just talking about that on our Sex and the City podcast because Harry is so confident and is so into Charlotte from the very beginning. He's just like, you're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. I mean, it's hard to resist something like that.
Yes. Sex and the City is one of my favorite shows of all time.
Oh man, we'll have to get you on City Girls Pod. But yeah, I mean, just the way he's so like confident that it is very attractive. And she's just like, how am I falling for this nerd?
Yes.
This nerd lawyer.
Yes. Well, and I think there's a point in time where you're like, okay, well, this is the kind of guy that I had always imagined, but like then this guy comes and surprises you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like she didn't expect to fall for Harry, but he was exactly what she needed.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's why that's the relationship they're really kind of stuck, because it was the one that just made the most sense.
Yeah.
As far as their chemistry and everything. I mean, she gave up Jesus to be with him. I mean, come on.
Yes. I know. I love Charlotte.
I know too. We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. Writing duo Christopher Palaha and Anna Gomez are back with the second book in their From Kona with Love series, Where the Sun Rises. Dubbed as a modern Romeo and Juliet by the San Francisco Book Review, Where the Sun Rises has become a highly anticipated follow-up depicting multicultural romance, love, loss, and redemption woven into a family saga set in the beautiful islands of Hawaii. Though connected, each installment in the From Kona with Love series can be read as a standalone. The series falls into the genre of clean romance and is best known for its lush island backdrops. Says Publisher Weekly of the first installment, quote, Gomez and Palaha's descriptions of Hawaii are postcard worthy. The breezy pace and gorgeous setting will stoke readers' wanderlust, close quote. Where the Sun Rises promises to whisk readers away to the idyllic island of Hawaii. Protagonists Mele Moana and Adam Yates meet at the wedding of Mele's friend, Andy, where they are paired up in the wedding party to walk down the aisle together. Their worlds couldn't be more different. Mele is the daughter of a plantation worker, and Adam is the son of one of the richest men in Oahu. They do have one thing in common, though, big dreams that will take them into opposite shores. But that's not the only obstacle they must overcome. Adam inspires Mele to face her fears, and she restores his faith in redemption. Yet, with love comes sacrifice, and the goals they've worked so hard for may end up tearing them apart. Ultimately, Where the Sun Rises is a story about overcoming adversity, the promise of young love, and the valor in letting go. Where the Sun Rises releases on October 11th, 2022, and is available at all major retailers where books are sold. In-person and virtual book signings will be popping up in Los Angeles and Chicago during the months of October and November. Make sure to pre-order your copy of Where the Sun Rises today at your local brick-and-mortar bookstore, and it'll be waiting for you to enjoy on October 11th. In the meantime, immerse yourself in the Kona world by reading moments like this. More information can be found here at vesuvianmedia.com/fromkonawithlove. That's vesuvianmedia.com/fromkonawithlove. All right. Well, then I've read the Curvy Girls Date Cowboys. So that's Ginger and Ray, like you said. And that one's a fun one. This is another one where she has very difficult parents. and her parents don't want her to go away to college because she has asthma and they're afraid of her being on her own.
Right.
And then also they're like super judgy of farmers.
Yeah, they're very crunchy people.
Yeah, crunchy.
They're just so funny. Some of that comes from life experience too.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I grew up on a farm and a ranch, and I was very like I guess immersed in that lifestyle. And then my husband and I studied abroad in Costa Rica to do language immersion and learn Spanish. And I was in a class with 12 people, and 11 of them were either vegetarian or vegan. And one of them was a raw vegan. And so I felt like every time I spoke about my upbringing, which is a huge part of who I am, who I was, I felt so attacked, and people
Yeah.
never really gave me a chance. So I felt like Ray, like I probably was a little crusty at first. So that was fun to put into Ray.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's right to be kind of crusty because they are really rude to him.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
mean, and it's not like they're Purdue or something like that. They're like a small family farm.
Yes. Yes. Well,
And
it's so
that's
funny
still,
because
I mean,
there's like so many ways to other people,
yeah,
Yeah.
it's true. And I guess it has to be organic for these people.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or it's no good.
Yeah.
No good. And they
And
have like all these pamphlets ready for her and telling her like she can't be with this person.
yes. I
Uh,
love that. And I just
yeah.
imagine like Ginger and her mom 10 years later when she's trying to buy cleaning supplies for her house, and her mom's like, no, you can't use bleach.
Yeah. Or for somebody to be like, well, just give me a deal on your organic stuff, I guess I'll use it.
Yes.
Yeah, because they own like a co-op kind of a thing type
Yeah, it's like a
situation.
health food store.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, I can see why they'd be nervous about her going away to school, but at a certain point, I mean, you can only have her be at home for so long. And
Right.
it's not like she can't function by herself, like she's a
Right.
smart person. She'd have roommates too, I think.
Hmm. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And I think that was like that trauma response as a parent, when you see your children go through something really hard, there's something that unlocks inside of you, and you're like, I will do whatever it takes in my power to stop that from happening again.
mhm.
And sometimes people take it overboard,
Yeah.
right? Like her parents, like, no, I don't want you to like leave home and go to college. I have to make sure you take your medication every day. Like,
Mhm.
but there's definitely growing pains for both of
Yeah.
them.
But I think in a way it's a good thing because it sort of forces you to be independent and to
Right.
have your own voice, and
Hmm.
you can't really lean on other people because uh, they're gonna try to force you to be somebody that you don't want to be.
Right. Right.
Mhm.
And it was really fun to write her parents, because in a lot of teen novels, it's like the parents are cool with them doing anything, or
Mhm.
like having co-ed sleepovers, or the kids always like sneaking out the window at night and the parents never notice.
Yeah.
And I
That
was
or
like,
they're like
I
completely unreasonable, and
yes.
like I mean the parents in not Good Will Hunting, in Robin Williams movie, I can't, all of a sudden it left me.
Oh no.
What's it called? Sorry, I just had a brain wipe. In but Dead Poet Society.
Oh yeah,
Like,
my husband and I were just talking about that one.
yeah, the parents in Dead Poet Society, it's like heaven forbid your child is in a play. I mean, it's like the worst thing that ever
Right.
happened to 'em.
Yes. Yes. See what I mean? There's like so many ways that people can be like, get away from me.
I mean, is it Shakespeare, for goodness sakes? How dare you? In Shakespeare.
Yes. But
Yeah.
yeah, some people just really like latch on, and it just creates this need to be like, I've got to breathe. I have to go.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, and I think maybe sometimes people forget how lucky they are to be able to be a parent and to be able
Mhm.
to have, I know it's like super stressful and hard, but there are a lot of people that don't even get that opportunity. So
Right.
just be grateful,
Right. Yeah.
too. But so I've read these 3. Now, which one would you say, okay, here's the next one I should read?
So technically there's a chronological order to them where you can
Mhm.
follow the friend group.
Yeah, I skipped one.
So the next one is, yeah, you've read the first 3. The next one is Curvy Girls Can't Date Bad Boys. That's Zara. And she is super fun because she represents the curvy girl that's like very confident, in love with her body, doesn't understand why anyone would ever feel bad about being curvy. And sometimes it's just good to have a girl like that in your head.
Mhm. Yeah,
Because
that
I
sounds good.
know when I started writing these, there were some people who were put off by the fact that the girls had insecurities or had negative self-talk. And
Mhm.
I think it's great to show the confident curvy girl, but that just was not my experience at all. Not even
Well,
close.
I don't think anybody is 100% confident all the time. I mean, that's why I
Right.
said these books could have just been a gimmick, but they're actual characters that have ups and downs and more. So to me, that's all the better for it. I wouldn't want somebody that's just like a bland, always, feels good about herself all the time.
Yes.
Not realistic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and even for people who aren't plus sized, they have their own insecurities. So, yeah, I just really wanted to, like, be honest in my
Hmm.
fiction, as honest as one can be in a made up story, and show that, like, yeah, you can feel bad about yourself. Like, you don't need to beat yourself up for your beating yourself up thoughts. Like,
Yeah.
sometimes you feel bad about yourself and you're like, how dare I say those things about myself? And it just like compounds when if you just acknowledge, like, yeah, that wasn't a pleasant thought. Let's move on to something else.
Hmm.
It would be way more productive.
Yeah. So you do have a Curvy Girls date Curvy Girls.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
exciting.
That was my pride edition. I was so nervous to write it. Um, there's a lot of discussion right now in writing circles about who can write which voices. And so I was very cautious with this one, and I made sure to consult people who have experience in those roles and relationships. And it was really fun. It was really scary, but it was super fun. And I I love those characters too.
Hmm. Yeah, that sounds good to me. You have Curvy Girls date bullies. That one sounds interesting to me. So you have
Yeah.
bad boys, and then you also have bullies.
So, okay, so bully romance is a trend
Oh, it
in
is.
in romance. Yeah, a lot of people go gaga over bully romance, which is like I'm saying the whole like alpha whole hero who is mean, but the girls fall in love with them, which I'm like, ugh, that hurts my heart. And then I thought, like, for curvy girls, I was thinking about it. I was like, the last person a curvy girl would want to date is a bully when they've been bullied their whole lives about their
Yeah.
size, if that's happened. And I was
Well, it's
like,
always tricky too when you're talking about like in a romance that somebody changes another person or they
mhm,
change for another person. That's always
right.
a little bit uncomfortable.
Yeah, yeah. There's definitely a line to walk there.
Hmm.
So I kind of got to thinking about it. And actually the bully in the story is Ginger's bully.
Oh,
And the one who like harasses her on her way into school.
right.
And so I'm like, okay, this is like the most irredeemable character, which is a fun challenge.
Uh-huh.
And then the girl in the story is Corey, who's Ginger's younger sister, which is like another layer. Like, how in
Oh,
the world could you ever fall for your sister's bully?
that's cute. That's
And
clever.
yeah, yeah. And I think like the fun thing about Corey is that she's just like a complete spitfire and has no shame about anything.
Uh-huh.
And the way that she handles it is really nice to me. And the way that the bully grows throughout the story, maybe not because of Corey, but because of the consequences of his actions, I'll say, is is really, it felt healing to me to see
Mm-hmm.
a bully recognize the error in their ways
Yeah.
and then, turn to love.
Well, you also have Curvy Girls date best friends. So it's obviously a friends to lovers story, which I'm a huge fan of. So I'm looking forward to that one.
Yes, I think you'll love it. Everyone loves Callie and Carson. The hard thing for me, I hardly ever write friends to lovers romance because I'm like, okay, you like each other, just get together. Like, what's your excuse at this point? So
But you don't want to ruin the friendship.
no. So I don't, yeah. So that's my challenge with friends to lovers, but it was so fun to like pull them apart and see the ways that they were holding themselves back. And sometimes I would just be writing and be like, oh, I'm so annoyed with you right now.
No, it is completely frustrating and unbelievable. It's just like, how can you not see that this person is clearly in love with you? But there is
Right?
something that's just so intoxicating about that formula. It's one of my favorite
Yes.
tropes.
Oh, and I mean, that kind of leans into the whole like cinnamon roll guy. Like it's someone that you innately know that you can trust, which is
Mm-hmm.
everything that you want in a romance.
Yeah.
So that's, yeah, I love best friend heroes too,
Yeah.
but they're very hard for me to write.
Yeah. I mean, it would be a little easier with YA because it's not like you really have had that long of being, I guess, friends. It's not
Mhm.
like when you're these women that are in Hallmark movies that are in their like 30s and 40s and they still haven't figured out that their assistant is in love with it, or whatever.
Yes. Or like when Harry met Sally. I love that movie because it's like all of the tropes
Yeah,
together. It's like enemies to lovers and friends to lovers.
that's true.
Yeah. But
And
at a certain point, you're like, come on, like there is no reason to be waiting anymore.
yeah, I know we're all like Bruno Kirby and Carrie Fisher, like finally.
Yes.
Yeah. I love it. It's my favorite in that movie when she's like, and I'm gonna be 40 in 8 years, but it's there.
Yes.
That's so good. Nora Ephron was a genius. She's the
Mhm, for
best
sure.
writer, screenwriter I've ever. So good. So also Curvy Girls date rock stars.
Yeah.
So is that like a teen heartthrob?
Yes. I kind of
Yeah.
modeled him after like an aged up Justin Bieber.
Uh-huh.
Um, not like just in his like rise to stardom and how like
Mm-hmm.
all the girls love him and they come up with their like fandom names, like
Yeah.
call themselves believers. So his name is Jude Santiago and he has the Fantiagos who follow him.
Uh,
And it was like any girl who is going to take his heart also needs to contend with this huge like mob,
uh-huh.
which was fun. And it wasn't like, because a lot of rock star novels are like almost enemies to lovers, like, oh, I don't care that you're famous. I don't like
Yeah.
you at all. Um, but Des, the main character in this story, wanted to be a singer herself. And so it was like she was on his level a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And that was fun. And he like had noticed her and helped her rise. So I just love that couple.
One of my favorite TV movies ever is an old Lifetime movie, I think from 2007, called Love Notes, and it's about a country superstar and a classical music podcaster, basically NPR lady, whatever, that end up kind of having this fling together. She gets pregnant, and then she has to go find him. Of course, this is Lifetime, not Hallmark, but it's so good. It's such good. It's just always like a fun dynamic that
Mhm. Oh yeah. And then I watched Forever My Girl
oh yeah.
for this
Mhm.
one. That movie was so sweet.
I wanted him to take a shower throughout the whole movie. I'm like, what is wrong with you? He looks so
He was
dirty.
always so like,
Yeah.
yes.
We'd like to take a second from this episode of the podcast to celebrate our sponsor of this episode, and that is the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast?
Do you want an inside scoop into what happens on the podcast?
Do you want early access to episodes and loads of cool perks?
Now is the time to become a patron of Hallmarkies Podcast.
By becoming a patron, You get to access our patron Facebook group.
You can request episodes or even be a guest on the podcast.
And most importantly, any patron can join our monthly movie watch-alongs with stars like Paul Campbell, Natalie Hall, and more.
It's as low as $2 a month to join in and become a special part of the Hallmarkies family.
Please consider, and we will love you forever.
Go to patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
But yeah, they just had a good one actually on Hallmark, Love in the Limelight. There's a boy band member who is based on a true story about this boy band member started writing this pen pal, one of his fans, and finally they decide to meet, and it's kind of their cute story, and it's starring the Vegas, who are a real life couple, obviously, and I really enjoyed it. It was very cute.
I need to watch it. Pen pal romances are that's my favorite trope of all time.
You'll like it then, yeah, for sure. You also have Curvy Girls Date Princes.
Yes, had to throw a royal one in there. That was definitely like the Prince and Me type story, but also a little bit of forbidden romance because he's her parents' foreign exchange student, and so he lives across the hall from her, and love is explicitly forbidden. And that was always fun because my school had foreign exchange students growing up, but they were mostly girls, and I was always like, why can't there be a cute guy with an accent to come and fall in love with me and take me to France? So I just wrote about it.
I mean, simple dreams. I mean, come on.
Is
it too much to ask?
Highly possible.
That's good. So do you have one, the Curvy Girls dance? Is that not a love story?
It is a love story, but it's more of her reaching her goals. And this is actually inspired by, I'm not sure if you've heard of her story, but there was a girl named Lizzie Howell and then also a girl named Amanda LaKill, and both of them had similar stories to where they grew up dancing, and they had dance teachers who basically said, you're too big to be a dancer, you can't dance with our studio, and caused them a lot of pain because they were basically told they couldn't do the thing that they loved just because of their size. And both of them have continued their dancing careers and are continuing to move forward and doing great things for other people. And I think
I saw some of those viral videos.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, I love this. Let's add some romance and some girl power. And it was really fun to write.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, if you were going to turn one of your stories into a movie, which one would you pick?
Well, obviously, I'd love book one to be a movie because then they could do all the other ones afterward. But as I was writing Curvy Girls Can't Dance, I just had a feeling okay, this one could be a Netflix movie. I could really see it speaking to a lot of people.
It's very exciting because they just had a movie on Hallmark Channel. They had a very good August, in my opinion, but they had a movie called Romance in Style with JC Elliott. And
yes, I heard about that.
Did you see it?
No, I didn't see it, but someone posted about it in my readers group.
I really enjoyed it. Yeah. And some people said, oh, it's a little too heavy-handed about the body positivity. But to me, it made sense because it was her job. She worked in fashion. So she's trying to get plus size designs out there and get them seen. So of course she's going to talk a lot about body positivity because it's a part of her job.
Right.
If she was just a normal person always spouting, on this soapbox about body positivity, then that would be bad. That wouldn't make sense. But again, it made sense to me because it literally was part of her job. And it was such a good example of, as we were talking about, how the Ben Hollingsworth character was immediately into her, immediately smitten. And that is just so attractive. And I think a lot of us that are plus size are don't get to see that portrayed very often, either in books or movies. And so it's just so sexy.
Yes. Well, and
Yeah.
a lot of times, like in books or movies, it's like a second thought to the guy, like, oh, she's been right under my nose this whole time, and now I see that we could be together.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay.
Yes, that's like in the fourth Bridgerton
Mhm.
book. They with Penelope, they have they do that her and Colin, I think Colin,
Right.
that he's right under her nose. He doesn't notice her. He's actually kind of rude to her, even though they're supposedly friends. And then she loses weight and basically asks him to kiss her because she's like, I want to be kissed once in my life. And then he's like, oh wow, she's really cool. And like, I think like there's certain fun in that, I guess, but I was always just kind of like, she deserves better than this
Right.
guy who's kind of like, oh, I just noticed you after 20 years.
That was that would be such a teenage boy thing to do though. Like,
Yeah.
okay.
And I'm like, how are they going to do this in the series? Because they dropped the hints at it in the last season when he says, oh, I would never marry Penelope. And you see her and she's all sad. And I'm like,
I
I hate you,
know.
Colin. And so are they gonna make that better? I think in the next one. I hope so. But
Yeah,
anyway,
I know. I
that's
know. I
usually
keep
what you
seeing
see.
teasers for it, and I'm like, okay, I want to binge this.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That's typically how it's portrayed of like, oh, I guess you are actually beautiful.
Mhm.
Like, well, I guess.
Okay, I'm so glad you can look past like a lot
Yeah.
of who I am.
But it was so much better in this recent Hallmark movie. I was just like, oh, I mean, I've always liked Ben Hollingsworth, but he really won me over in this movie. He was
Yeah.
very swoon worthy.
Okay.
And
I need to figure out how I can watch that.
yeah, you need to watch it. You'll really like it. So I'm happy to see the not only just body positivity, but I felt like it was done right.
Yeah.
And that made me very, very happy. And I hope that it's popular enough and loved enough that we keep seeing more of it.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it is. It is time.
Yeah, I mean, I've said this they make so many movies. Like Hallmark literally made 11 movies just from July 30th to September 4th.
Wow.
11 films. I can't think of another studio that had that kind of output in 1 month, not even in their prime. It's not even Christmas.
Right.
And they make so many. You can have movies for all different audiences within love stories within that time period.
Well, this is what floors me as I think I'm not sure what the stats are, but it's something like 60 something percent of the US is overweight.
Mhm.
And I think we're watching these movies and I don't see 67% of the characters overweight.
Well, and I get that these things are supposed to be aspirational. I understand that, but it's like more aspirational when you see somebody that looks like you having a
Exactly.
romance. That's like fantasy.
Exactly.
And they have shown time and time again with science that you can have health at every size. So the idea that it's somehow like damaging on a like health level is just not true.
Yeah. Right. Right. Yeah, the whole I've gotten that comment too with my books, like the whole glorifying obesity thing.
Mhm.
Like somehow we should pretend like 67% of the population doesn't exist.
Yeah, it doesn't deserve to fall in love.
Yeah, that's not logical. It doesn't, yeah, it doesn't track.
I had a heart scare in 2020, and so I worked pretty hard to lower my salt and to get healthy. And I went into the doctor in April, May, and he was like, I love my cardiologist, he's super funny, but he was like, yeah, I'm looking at this echocardiogram results, and they're just super boring. There's nothing interesting going on here. You're
I love that. Congratulations.
Yes, thank you. I like that's what you want to hear from your cardiologist. You want the most boring results that you
Exactly.
can get.
Yes.
So you can have a very boring echocardiogram and be technically, obese or a bigger person. So I don't know. I think that it's great to see more body positivity in films.
Yeah.
And why not?
Well,
It's
that's kind of
fantasy. It's enjoyable.
Hey, this is Jen Johans, host of the podcast Watch with Jen, which delivers a steady stream of great movie recommendations, thoughtful career deep dives, and first-rate conversations with film critics, authors, actors, journalists, filmmakers, and more. You can find Watch with Jen wherever you get your podcasts or hear us first at our Patreon at patreon.com/filmintuition.
And that's kind of like what got me is around the time that I was like early 20s, they had started putting more plus size models on magazines. And there was a lot of talk about how this is so unhealthy and why would they put them there like a hero? And it really hurt me because, I was like, these skinny people on magazines, they're not all healthy.
Right.
We aren't in their doctor's office. We don't know what they're doing. A lot of them have like drug issues or, other things, but we're putting them on the front of magazines. So why don't big people belong there too? Because there's not just one way to be healthy.
Yeah.
And healthy isn't an indicator of worthiness of being seen.
Yeah. And like I said, I can send study after study after study that shows that you can be healthy at every size and unhealthy at every size.
Yeah. Well, actually, I was reading an article about that said they made everything regular across the population except for weight. They crossed out trauma, they crossed out like socioeconomic status and everything. And the main indicator was like regular physical activity. It wasn't even like size that was an indicator for future illnesses. And I'm just like, I wish more people would read this.
Yes.
Take it to heart.
Well, I'm glad
on Instagram better.
Yeah, I am glad that you are putting out these books that are just fun. When I first started reading, I was like, oh, is this just going to be, because I'm not that big of a YA person. That was probably more my sort of reticence, but I just went for it and I really enjoyed them. I thought they were very fun and I can't wait to read more of them. Except I've only done the 3 so far.
Well, I'm really glad. Sorry, my dog's barking.
No, it's okay. Well, we like to end with some fun, silly questions.
Okay.
So here we go. What is the best ice cream flavor?
Tillamook vanilla bean.
Oh, specific brand, huh?
Yes, it has to be a special brand. I'm an ice cream snob.
Okay. All right. What's your favorite color?
Blue.
Okay. What music are you into?
Anything that I can sing along to.
Oh, wasn't that you just don't like classical music?
No classical music. No like heavy metal screamo.
Oh, okay.
Anything with like a beat and some, long notes that I can hold.
Cool. All right. What is your go-to date night food?
Oh, mozzarella sticks.
Okay. All right. What is your go-to date night activity to go out and do something?
Probably going out to eat and then like walking around.
Yeah. Okay. Which do you like better, dogs or cats? I think we know.
Dogs.
Dogs. All right. What's your dog's name?
Gordon.
Oh, that's cute. All right. Which do you like better, beaches or mountains?
Beaches. But I live by the mountains, but I like the beaches.
You know what would be a fun one is Curvy Girls Can Date Lifeguards.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's a good one.
Yes.
My boys and I play. My boys are 8, 4, and 3, and they always like to say, "Mom, Curvy Girls can't date motorcycle drivers." Come up with names for the series.
Yeah.
We'll have to tell them that one.
Well, if you do Curvy Girls Date Lifeguards, you have to dedicate it to me.
Obviously.
Okay. Yes. All right. I got to know the lifeguards in this last trip because we went to the beach and I got stung by a stingray, which was a wild experience. I didn't even know they had stingrays in California, but yeah, it was right into my ankle, and it just like swelled up, and it was incredibly painful. And they had to come and bring this special bag that keeps the heat in. And then they put in very, very hot water, almost boiling, as
Oh
hot
my
as they can get
gosh.
it. And that's the only way to get the venom out of here.
That's awful.
It was wild. It hurt really bad.
Oh my gosh. We like grew up in the Steve Irwin generation. I was like freaking out.
I mean, I think he actually that it was more where the sting happened.
Oh, okay.
That is the reason why he died. But yeah, I mean, it's not a pleasant experience, I'll tell you that.
I'm so sorry.
No, it was wild. And my friend Megan had to like run and get the lifeguard, and then they came and lifeguard Ty, and so it was a wild experience. But yeah, I guess what you want to do when you get into the water, if there's stingrays, is you want to shuffle your feet, and they really should have some kind of sign or something that like stingrays are here or something, because I had no idea.
Yeah.
So
What beach was it? I'm like nervous.
it was
to
in
go now.
Ventura
Okay.
Beach. Yeah.
Good to know.
So, and I guess because that particular place was like a harbor, and so it was kind of separated from the ocean at large. Not a lot of big waves, and I guess that is why where they like to kind of be.
Oh.
But my friend, her husband also got stung by a stingray in San Diego, so I guess it's a thing in like Southern California.
Oh. Oh my God, the jellyfish in Florida, the snake in California. Nowhere is safe.
All right. What is your favorite holiday to celebrate?
I think it's Halloween right now.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Yeah. What are some of your peak costumes?
Last year I was a cow,
Oh, nice.
which was fun. Just being
Yeah.
a Curvy Girl being a cow. And my husband was a farmer, which was
That's cute.
great.
I
just,
think
like,
one of the main
totally-
reasons to get married is to do couples costumes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I had high hopes for when I had children that we could do like cute family costumes.
Yes.
Not happening.
No.
They're too invested.
Well, last year I was WandaVision,
Oh, fun.
and that was fun. Or Wanda, not WandaVision. I was Wanda from WandaVision. And I've been Tracy Turnblatt. That's one of my favorites from Hairspray. Yeah, I love getting the costumes together. Professor McGonagall, I was one year. I was Dorothy.
Oh,
It's fun to kind of put it all together. I was Chucky from Rugrats one time.
that's so fun. I've always just loved like passing out candy and seeing the
Uh-huh.
kids, their costumes so happy. Like, just a great time of year.
Yeah. Yeah, I live in a gated community, so you don't get too many, but it is fun when you get to see them.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. What is your favorite Hallmark or romantic movie?
Oh, that's a good question. I think I'm gonna say 10 Things I Hate About You.
Mm,
I loved that one.
yeah. That's a good one. It's very funny. And great chemistry. And you've got
Yes.
a lot of different tropes going on there too.
Yes, and Heath Ledger was
Yeah.
just such a heartthrob. And my favorite romantic scene of all time is him like dancing across the bleachers.
Yeah. I was just
So
gonna
cute.
say how can you not love that scene?
Yes. All the big smiles.
Yeah.
And then you also have like the sub romance with Cameron and the sister. Like there's just so much. Love
She's
it.
kind of the worst. I kind of hate her. But
I love her character arc.
yes. Very good choice. Well, you did it. You answered all the questions.
Yay.
Very good.
It was super fun. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming. I really appreciate it. And if people want to find you on social media or your books, how can they do that?
Easy to just search Kelsie Stelting. It's spelled just like it sounds, and I should come right up. And I'm on Facebook. If you want to talk with other readers, I have a Facebook group called Kelsie Stelting Readers Club, which is super fun, positive place. And yeah, and my books are on Amazon, so it's an easy search. Curvy Girl Club.
Great. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes and on Goodreads. If you want to read my thoughts on books, check it out over there. All the information will be in the description. And you can also find our affiliate links to all of Kelsie's books in the description. Please take a look at that. And check out Hallmarkies Podcast at Hallmarkies Pod and Hallmarkies Podcast, all over social media. And if you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews 5 stars. It really helps us a lot. And if you are watching on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that so much. We also have our Patreon group and merch store. Take a look at that. All that information is in the description. And thanks so much, Kelsie. This was a lot of fun. And yeah, we'll have to have you back. Maybe talk Hallmark movies.
Oh yeah, would love that.
Let's do it. All right. We'll talk to you all later. Bye, everyone.
Bye.